If you do all of those things, I think you can be whoever the fuck you want to be in like 18 months. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Be the Standard. I'm Denny Jamazzo, your host, and I'm here with Mike Burns, my best friend and co-host. And today we're going to do things a little bit differently where, I kind of feel like I've been putting my story out there, sharing a lot of personal information, and really letting you guys kind of get to know me and who I am. So I thought that today would be a good idea to maybe me just kind of interview Mike and ask him some questions, let him answer some questions, and, really let you see sides of him that I'm fortunate enough to see quite often. So I'm going to be interviewing my best friend and co-host today, Mike Burns.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Let's do it, brother. So when I came up with the idea to do a podcast, initially it was, I wanted to do this podcast with you, right? You're the best friend I have, the best guy I know. I've always looked up to you. I've always really just enjoyed having you as a friend, and you've done a great job being a friend that I've needed over the last 15 years or so. And, I really can't thank you enough for that. So let me just say that. But, I want our audience to know you the way I know you. And so maybe to get started, tell me a little bit about your upbringing, like kind of where you're from, what you're about, and kind of maybe just chronologically just take it from there at the beginning, where you're from.
Where I'm from, so that's a tough question just because moved around so much. My mother and me and my brother moved around a lot as children. So let's try to see. So I would always say we're based out of like the Uxbridge, Northbridge, Whitensville area of Massachusetts. I think I went to kindergarten there, went to first grade, I think started there. Then we moved to Vermont, came back to Massachusetts. I think that ended up, my mother ended up marrying my stepfather and going out to Vermont, New York, upstate New York for a couple of years for, I guess I would say a good part of my middle school years. You know what I mean? I think, maybe 11 years old to like 15, 16 years old. Then I moved back to Massachusetts and here I go. Here I am, as far as, I guess, young Mike was concerned.
Yeah. And so I know you moved around a little bit. I know you were upstate New York, Uxbridge, maybe a little bit of back and forth. One of the things that has always drawn me in with you is, I know you didn't always have it easy.
No, definitely not.
So like, I've talked a lot about like my hardships, the shit that I kind of went through growing up.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of those things that, you experienced that, may have been a little bit more difficult? And this isn't a pity party or anything like that. It's just, we become who we are based off of the experiences we go through and the adversity we face.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. So, I don't know how my mother did it. She literally raised me and my brother working at McDonald's by herself. My father was never really involved at all. He was there. Like, I knew who he was. Like, I would see him maybe once a year, but he wasn't helping my mother out in any way. So she was doing it all on her own. So grew up very poor. I mean, sometimes we're just all living in like a one-bedroom whatever, and then, again, she would just kind of move around. She could probably tell better than I could. I don't know why we moved around so much. I'm sure it's probably to have a certain place to go or do whatever. I mean, we didn't have Christmases like people would have Christmases. We didn't get gifts. If people gave it to us, that was cool. My mother did what she could, by all means. She would, but you grew up a certain way, and kind of things change you a little bit. I was a very happy kid, I guess, like in the fact that I was like, I just thought like the good in people. I always kind of looked at the good in people. And then as you grow up in a poor environment too, like you don't dress right. You kind of grow up poor, like the way you dress and the way you get picked on a lot, right? So then you kind of get bullied, get bullied a lot. I got bullied a lot at where I lived in school. And eventually that kind of changes you and you harden up a little bit. And then eventually I went the other way, I ended up becoming like too hardened up, and anger is an easy emotion to tap into. I talk about that all the time. It's easy to lean into that and feel strong, but you don't realize it's destructive in the long term. So I kind of leaned into that pretty early on and kind of rode that out for a while, I guess.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I remember same, just growing up, no money,
Hmm.
poor, and one bedroom apartment, moving around here and there. I also remember, yeah, I've never even spoken about this, but when you look a certain way, you act a certain way, you dress a certain way, and the other kids either look different or have
Hmm.
nicer clothes, or they do say things, and I can remember the same thing, just like going that other direction where
Yeah.
um, I just wanted to fight everybody,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're running your mouth, you're talking shit about the way I look, in which, you're saying, oh, you must be poor and your family this and your mother that. And, you know, I can remember those things as well, those kids being bullies and just being angry often.
Yeah, that's just kids in general, though, right?
Yeah.
I look at it now as like, thank God I grew up when I grew up, and not now. Like now,
Yeah.
these kids, you go home, you're away from it. Usually, these
Mhm.
kids are the bullying follows them online, social media. Like that's crazy. So, but yeah, kids are going to be kids. That's just the way the world is.
Yeah.
So it wasn't nothing bad. Like I said, my mother did a great job
Hmm.
raising me and my brother what she had.
Yeah.
So um, overall, really can't complain. I wouldn't call it a hard upbringing because that wouldn't be fair, because it's not like my mother beat me or anything like
Yeah.
that. She took
Yeah.
good care of me, but yeah, just poor, just grew up poor.
Hmm. And I've met your mom. I think she's amazing.
Yeah,
She's probably one of the sweetest women I've met. And
yeah,
I just met her, I think, for the first time last summer. Was it? We met
yeah,
her. We went out for lunch or something,
yeah,
or I met you guys out when you were out for lunch with her, and so sweet. I liked her a lot.
yeah.
One of the things you said that I can also relate to is your dad wasn't around much.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things I say often is when you don't have a father figure, or you don't have that positive real male role model in your
Hmm.
life, you find that you have to teach yourself a lot of things on your own.
Oh, absolutely.
Did you find that as well? Like, what are some of the things you kind of look back and you're like, oh shit, like I kind of wish I had a dad to maybe teach me how to do X, Y, or Z.
I mean, I don't think I look. I don't mean to say it this way. I like who I am and how I turned out, so I don't want to go. I wouldn't say I would want to go back and have anything.
Hmm.
I like the way I had to learn things, um, but you definitely need those things, right? Like,
Yeah,
so I do teach myself everything. Like
yeah,
my mother, like she did what she could. She's a woman,
yeah.
you know what I mean? She busy raising two kids off a
Mhm.
McDonald's salary, so you kind of figure it out. You kind of teach yourself, and then even joining the guard and going to basic training, that teaches you a lot. You
Yes,
know what I mean? I was like, huh,
that's right.
all right.
That's where I was gonna go next.
Yeah, I mean that really, you just don't know what you don't know till
Yeah,
you go there, and especially being someone that wasn't raised by another man, like you do learn a lot.
yeah. And one of the things I say often, that the hardest thing for me was growing up was, when you'd see your friends with their dads,
Hmm.
and you kind of catch those glimpses of, you know, them bonding or
Hmm.
them like embracing that relationship, and you see it, that closeness.
Yeah.
That's what was tough for me as a kid, because I would be like, whoa, that's cool. He has that and I
Hmm.
don't, right? Even Jeff, our producer here, I grew up with Jeff
Yep.
and was over his house all the time and saw him and his dad and his brother, just all kind of just this cohesive unit, and
Hmm.
him being a good father to his sons. And frankly, he was kind of like a father figure to me, and he was a
Yeah.
good guy to me.
Yeah.
And so I was fortunate to have that. But I can remember specifically just Jeff,
Yeah.
one of my best friends, being like, "Yeah, that must be pretty cool."
Yeah. And I want to take anything. I do want to say this. I don't want to take anything away from my stepdad. He was there.
Sure.
My mother married him. I think again, like through some pretty important years, right? So he did. He had his own kids, and he married my mom and raised us as well. I'm like, kudos to that guy. I mean, he already had a bunch of kids, and then us, and then so he did. He did what he could as well. So
Yeah, and I can say I was fortunate enough to have that as well. My aunt, she had a husband, and he was just, I think he wanted to be a dad,
mhm.
right? But he didn't know how. His upbringing was probably as bad or worse than mine, right?
Yeah,
So he probably didn't know how to be a dad, but I do think he was an awesome provider.
hmm
He also, the other issue was he was a truck driver, so he was driving on the
hmm
road all the time. So he wasn't home all the time to be a dad or to teach those things, or and then when he was home, it was like he had like 2 days, and who doesn't, he would spend time with us and do things, but it really wasn't like that bonding period of like, Denny, let me teach you how to do this. Let
yeah,
me,
yeah,
be a dad. And he
Yeah.
would say, like, Danny, I'm not your dad. I know that. And I would tell him because I was a punk kid, like, you're not
Hmm.
my dad. Because
Yeah.
I was a punk kid. And, but he would say, but I am your friend. I can be here for you. And never took him up on it because I just didn't have that capacity.
Hmm.
I still that little bit of anger, right? Um, but yeah, it's a problem that shouldn't exist, and that's something I'm learning, especially with some of the guests we've had on,
Yeah.
right? Like Nick Freitas, especially, I think right away, because you know, not having a father is something that nobody should have to experience, and not having that strong male role model to teach you things
Yep.
and raise you, and you know, um, because I think if you're not raised right as a man, it can be, I don't want to say devastating, but it can really hurt you later on in life,
Yeah. Well,
and how you treat other people in
yeah,
relationships
we've
and
seen that
stuff.
play out in other circumstances, right? I think I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, yeah. But without a father, for me, my hero was always Michael Jordan, right? I would always look for
Hmm.
Michael Jordan stuff on the internet, quotes, videos, anything I could find, because in addition to just being, in my opinion, the best basketball player of all time, even to this day, I don't care how good people think LeBron is. I hate him. Uh, Jordan to me is just, he was my idol growing up, and I loved just his attitude, his toughness, his never quit attitude, all that stuff. So that's what I looked to and tried to learn just the right values and different things. Like,
Hmm.
who would you say was your childhood hero?
It's a good question. I'm not, trying to be a cop. I don't think I really had one.
Okay.
I don't think I really looked up to anything that I can remember.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't think I really wasn't really driven. Like you said, you probably love basketball, so you had Michael Jordan and all that. I don't think I had anything that drove me like that
Gotcha.
at that age.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, and I think it was just, and Jeff can attest to this as well. I was very competitive growing up,
yeah,
and so sports were kind of my thing, and I was drawn to like just that competitive type of a mentality. And
hmm,
obviously, I don't think there's a bigger, greater competitor ever in the history of any sport than him, Michael
yeah,
Jordan. So, yeah, so that's what it was for me. But I do think that the bulk of like the values that I learned and different things that I learned about being, a man of, just integrity and good values and things like that, I think that came after I joined the Army.
yeah,
And, I'd like to hear your perspective on that because, for me, it was having solid leadership and people that I could look up to, like yourself,
hmm,
who I really thought helped mold me into just a much better, younger man.
yeah. So I guess I would have to back up and talk about why I even joined the Guard. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, definitely at that point, wasn't in high school. Got thrown out. You know, quit at the same time. Kind of deal like, hey, it's kind of like a mutual understanding. Like, hey, we don't really want you here. And I was like, yeah, I don't really want to be here. Kind of deal. So then once you get out of that and you have no real adult supervision, like you just go, the wheels really come off. And I remember just one day, because I never had any intention to ever join the military in my life. That was never a thing I thought I would do. I actually thought the opposite. I was like, I'm never joining the military. My mother was in the Air Force. My father was in, I think, a bunch of branches. You know what I mean? My stepdad was even in the Guard. So, and he was a prior Marine, I think. And I was like, "Nah, I'm not doing any of that." But, anyways,
Mm.
I do remember a recruiter one time just stopped us. We're a bunch of punks walking down the street, and he brought us into the armory. And he was like, "Hey, you guys ever thought about the National Guard? Blah, blah, blah." I'm just sitting there like, yeah, right, no way. And never thought about it since, right? Right away, I was like, no way I'm ever doing that. And then one day, he just, I don't know, probably like many days of drinking, right? We're just at the end of the day. I'm sitting on my grandmother's porch I will remember this always. I remember just when it all clicked, like I was going the wrong way in my life. I remember just sitting on the couch. I was just looking up at, there was a couch on the porch, pretty weird, but, and looking up in the sky and being and literally almost like a voice to myself was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing with your life? This is stupid. And it was like, guess you would say like a moment of clarity, right? But probably I look back and now can probably connect the dots. It's probably God for some really making me wake up. And then this guy I knew, a neighbor of mine, I was like, hey, he was in the Guard. I was like, hey, let's do this thing. Like I need to change my life. I need to do it now. And I just he brought me to the same recruiter that tried to recruit us before that I said no way, and then started that journey, which really, like you said, like started to transform me. It just makes you grow up. You know what I mean? Maybe active duty would have been better. I don't know. It worked for me, getting the right leaders, because even once you go to basic training, I think we've talked about this before, coming back to the same crowd of people I hung out with before, you just start messing up again. Like you just might be like, you're a turd, but you might just be a little higher on the turd scale, right? Like you're just always going to fall to the level of people you hang out with. It's just guaranteed. I can prove that because that's kept happening to me. Like I would be like, all right, my life would be okay. And then I would kind of crash down because I would hang out with the wrong people. And I had a leader, he's still a big mentor of mine today, who literally, like, who does this, right? Came to my house one day, is like, you're moving in with me, or are you moving in with someone I know up in Worcester? And moved me out of there, out of the environment. Because he saw the potential in me, I guess, right? And knew that me living out where I was, or being around the people that I was around, was just bringing me down. He plucked me right out of there and moved me out of there, which was, who does that, right?
Yeah.
He's one of the best leaders. Anyone who's listening to this knows who he is, but probably if you've ever worked for this guy, he just goes above and beyond for people, right? So that's when I really started to grow. And that's, if it wasn't for people like him, I probably would have just got out of the garden, because I had a rough patch right in the beginning, where I was like, screw this, because I had toxic leadership. So you see both in the military, right? You have good leadership, you have bad leadership, and I had some that were just too much, right? And I was just like, I'm all set with this, and I just said, I'm just not gonna go anymore. Actually, and these guys wouldn't let me quit. Bottom line, So a long answer to your easy question, but I had to back it up to really kind of show where I came from with this, and how certain leaders or certain people, how they can seriously impact my life and the trajectory of my life, right? I always say that to people now that I'm Sergeant Major, was Command Sergeant Major. Like, listen, be careful what you say and just know that you have influence in what you say and do, because you can really change the path of someone's life by doing that and what you say and what you do.
Yeah, and I would say that our career paths in the Guard early on are parallel, because I did the same thing. I came home, hanging out, not necessarily hanging out with like bad people or the wrong people, but like just went back to just making the same dumb decisions I made before I joined, right? And so I ended up, just like you, just not caring, wanted out. Was under shitty leadership. Two guys, and you would know well, they sucked. I won't say their names, but just two guys that, I didn't like their leadership. I didn't think they were any good. From a leadership perspective, lost interest, didn't want to really be in anymore. My only desire at that point was to try to leave and go in active duty. Wouldn't let me. And then I skipped the drill. And our first sergeant, who stayed back, who you know who he is while you were in Iraq, really kind of did something similar with me. And, I skipped the drill. I showed up the next month. He was pissed, jacked me up against the wall. And in that same month, he promoted me. And he could have just ripped up the orders and not promoted me, but he did. And he said, I think you're better than what you're showing me. And, don't fuck me over like that ever again. I'm giving you a chance. I want to see what you can do with it. Like, just, that's what leadership looks like to me.
Yep.
You take a guy that, you see something in him, and you don't allow them to go down that path because you know that they're better.
Yeah. At least you try like hell, right? I've definitely tried.
Sure.
I've definitely tried with some and didn't succeed. And with some, I hope I did. But I think because I came from that, and it sounds like you did as well, like, you can almost be a better leader because that anyone can be saved, right? There's potential in everybody, and just don't look at them at the way they're acting in the moment, or the things you see, the things you've heard, and then just pass judgment and then just let them go on. You got to know that you got to put your effort into every soldier you have, regardless of how they are. And then if you can change, if you can. If you can't. But you try.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I want to pivot next, because I have a couple ideas. But as far as, I know you did what, 4 deployments, if you include Cuba and an activation, Iraq, Afghanistan. Is that right?
Yeah. So after 9/11, we just did it was a Title 10 activation, but we didn't even leave the state. What they did is they took they took our company and they split it in half. One half went to New York and one went to Natick, Mass, and they were doing that all over the all over the country, right?
Yeah.
They didn't know what they didn't know after 9/11, so they were like, "Hey, let's get these extra security to these bases just in case," right? So that was right after 9/11, and then so it was 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. We went to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. It's a Sec 4 again, security force for that. That was pretty good. And then 07, 08 was Baghdad, Iraq, and then 10/11 with you guys, with all of us, to Ghazni, Afghanistan. So I guess you count 3. I like the first one. It's Title 10, but we didn't go out of the state. You know what I mean?
Right. And I'm just gonna guess that Afghanistan was your favorite.
It was good.
Do you have a favorite?
No, I don't. So because I take everything for what it is, right? So
Sure.
Iraq was cool in that the fact that we were doing the advanced personal security detail for the U.S. ambassader.
That's pretty cool.
Talk about cool.
That's
you know
pretty
what I mean?
cool. Yeah.
So my squad before, we'd go out with the Blackwater guys. We'd bring out the package and they go out. They actually do the actual advanced work. We're more like the escorts. We bring them out there. And then the ambassador would come out. We'd come out, lock down the traffic circle wherever we're at, and then the U.S. ambassador would come. So there's stuff you get exposed to, and things you would see, and that were really cool. Like working with the State Department, going through their training, like it was a really cool mission. Afghanistan was cool in the fact that, we talked to Doolittle recently. Like we were able to go because we had good leadership. They let us actually go out all over the province and do stuff that a lot of people weren't doing, right? And I don't know, it was just I take the experience for what they are, and they were both really cool experiences.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
I couldn't say one's my favorite.
Yeah, it's always bothered me missing the Iraq deployment, because when I got out of basic training, and just for some context here, I got out of basic training and went straight to the unit. You guys were already getting ready to mobilize to go to Iraq. I still had an open tracheotomy. So I had a hole in my throat from having a trach from a surgery that I'm sure you guys have heard. But, I was actually trying to go to Iraq still. And I remember I was talking to First Sergeant Blackburn in his office, like when I got to the unit, and about going and linking up with you guys. And I was actually supposed to be in your squad. I remember I was assigned to you initially. And I was sitting there talking to Blackburn, and I guess because I had to have a dressing over my throat to cover this up.
Yeah, they would.
And so it was bleeding.
Yeah.
And it bled through.
Zero chance you're going. Yeah.
It was on my shirt. There was blood on my shirt. Yeah. And Blackburn's like, "The fuck? What is this? What?" And I was like, "Oh, I just have a small bandage, whatever. I'm trying to hide it or whatever." And he's like,
"They'll catch it at mob station. Wouldn't matter."
He's like, "Is that open?" He's like, "Is that thing still open?" And I was like, "Yeah, but it should be closed or whatever." And he's like, "Dude," he's like, "You're not fucking going anywhere."
Yeah, no way.
And that's exactly how he worded it. He goes, "You're not fucking going anywhere." He's like, "They're not going to let you fucking go deploy with that."
Zero chance.
No way. I was like, all right, fuck, okay. And then, but yeah, and I don't think, you definitely probably won't remember this, but I think I've told you before. I remember when I spoke to Blackburn on the phone, and he told me that I was assigned to you. This is before I ever showed up at the unit. And he told me that I was assigned to you. So he gave me your phone number. I said, "Yeah, give him a call, introduce yourself, whatever."
Yeah, I definitely don't remember this. Maybe you tell me this.
I called you, and I don't think there's ever been anybody on the other end of a phone with me that just wanted to be somewhere else. You did not want to be hearing from me. You were like, "Who the fuck is this private calling me?"
But you don't know that for sure, though.
It sounded like it.
It's just the way I come off, though. So
maybe that's what it was.
A lot of people, if you don't know me, especially I've gotten a lot better over these years, but I do have a certain personality, the way I talk and the way I might act. I really might come off as a dick, and I can be a dick, of course, but I just don't think it is what everyone thinks it is either.
Well, remember that time you were giving Mandela shit in the woods? It was kind of like that. Like, "Hey, Sergeant Burns, what time are we waking up?" "What time did I say?"
Yeah.
Remember that?
Well, that's
It was
just
kind of like the
that's just my personality. Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was, but the nature or the
It was
tone of
my
the
personality. I
conversation
guess
was
I'm probably not like that
yeah.
anymore, but yeah.
The tone of the conversation was kind of like that, like, "Hey, Sergeant Burns, PFC, whatever," and you're like, "Okay," and I was like, "Oh, I'm just, I'm assigned to you, whatever." And do you know what we're doing next month for drill? No, I don't have any idea. And I was just like, okay, like this guy's probably gonna make me do a million push-ups when I get there. Like I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know what I didn't know. All I
Yeah.
knew was basic training, which everybody knows you don't know shit.
You don't know anything.
You think you do, because remember you get out of basic training, you're like, oh, I just got a bit. In basic, we did things this way.
Oh yeah, don't
And
talk
then you're
about
like, yeah,
basic.
well, now you're at a real unit, so you don't do it that way
shut
anymore.
up. Yep.
If you do it like that again, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just remember that first conversation, not that vividly, but I
Yeah.
remember just like kind of the tone of
funny.
it and being like, wow, he didn't want to talk to me.
So there's your point. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier. Like you don't realize the interactions you have with people can leave a mark. You know what I mean?
But I was very excited, and this happened when you were gone in Iraq, when one of my squad leader, while you were gone, we were just at our annual training. I think that year it was 2 weeks, and we're just training. We just did like it was actually pretty cool training. We did some like Black Hawk insertions into whatever, and just really cool shit. And we're resting, like waiting for one of the Black Hawks to come pick us up. And one of the guys said to me, he goes, he's just going down the line, and you remind me of this guy and this guy. And he looked at me and he was like, you're the next Mike Burns, is what he said to me. And I was like, I didn't know what the fuck that meant, because I didn't know you. I just knew from that one conversation that I'd never seen you before or whatever. I don't think we had ever met before you went to Iraq. I think you just went to
You could have.
to Iraq.
I don't know.
But he said that, and I didn't know what it meant. And then when you guys got back, it was about a year later when you started drilling again. By the time you got back and started drilling again, I got assigned to you again.
Lucky you.
I got assigned to you
Lucky
again. But I remember being like, okay, I never forgot that he told me that. So I'd always wondered like what that was going to mean to me, right?
Yeah.
And so I was excited when I got assigned to you, because I'm like, I'm going to figure out like what the fuck this guy's all about, because people had talked and you had a good reputation, and so I wanted to know what that meant. And I remember trying so hard to impress you. Like I remember volunteering for shit and trying to learn shit that I didn't know.
It's good.
Like I didn't know what I didn't know, but I was trying to like make it seem to you like I knew, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But yeah, so I remember being really excited that I got assigned to you, and then Jesus, it was assigned to you the rest of my time in the military, and it was fucking awesome.
Yep.
And so it just I remember really being like it hit me like what that compliment really meant, So and then,
well, I hope it was a compliment. I don't
no,
know.
I
maybe
was.
looking back, you're probably like, oh, I don't know.
No, it was, because I got to know you like in your leadership style, and one thing I always picked up on was your willingness to make people better, and even if they didn't want to be, you made them be better. And so I picked up on that, and then then I got to be a team leader for you in Afghanistan and work for you directly, and I credit you for my leadership ability and the job that I did as a leader. And I think most people think it was at least pretty good, maybe not great. I don't know. But, I give you all the credit for, any compliments I get for the leadership
don't do
that
man.
I brought to the table.
That's all you, man. Like if people, we get influenced and by a bunch of different things, but the final outcome is all you. You know what I mean? So you got to give your credit all to yourself on that.
Well, I think what you do too is like not just the military, but anywhere you pick and choose from different leaderships and leadership styles and leaders. You take what you like and you leave what you don't, kind of a thing. Because even some of those leaders,
you even learn from the stuff you don't like. Not you make sure you're not going to do that. I did that early on.
Yep. And I think even I can even think of the leaders that I said I didn't really like, which they're not bad guys, just weren't for me, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I can think of things that they did that I did like.
Right.
Overall, I didn't really enjoy working for them, but there were some things that they did that I actually did think were good. So I don't want to, really be too hard on anybody, because nobody's perfect.
Absolutely.
But yeah, when you think of just and after this, we'll get off the military a little bit. But when you think of just your best memory of the military, whether it's an experience, whether it's a thought, whether you're just sitting there one day and poof, like what do you think about when you think of the military? If you had to pick one thing, what's your favorite
What do you mean? Just like memory or experience or?
experience? Call it experience if you want. Probably narrow it down, but that might help. Maybe a particular mission, maybe a particular experience, whatever event, a promotion, something.
Yeah, obviously making command sergeant major, that was huge. I mean, for the infantry battalion that I grew up in, like, and I didn't do that on purpose, right? I wasn't the guy that when you select, where you want promotion, I always selected anywhere in the Mass Guard. So I just ended up getting promoted through the ranks in the battalion and ended up becoming the command sergeant major for that battalion.
Mm-hmm.
Literally did every single leadership position in that battalion. But as cool as that was, I mean, I really, I don't know, like branching out now that I'm operations sergeant major, never thought I'd like doing something like that. It's really cool. I think this is where I think I get pretty lucky, Denny. I really think I can take the best out of wherever I'm at. You know what I mean? So right now, if it's fresh on my mind, I'm like, this is my assignment is cool. Like if you would have told me that, if I would have rewound time and you, as a command sergeant major, you told me I was going to be the operations sergeant major at the 26th MEB, I'd be like, what? I'm not doing that. Anyway, so I would say, but honestly, probably the coolest thing I would say was being the command sergeant major for the 181 during COVID and watching the national. This is why I don't think people get how good the National Guard soldier is. So watching from COVID, everyone remembers we didn't know, and if you would have saw the precautions, universal precautions we would take to go in and do the testing in these facilities, it was like the Seaburn Task Force, they would like teach us how to do this. And you're suited up, you're going into these places where these people are freaking out, like what's going on? They see us all, like we're all in gear.
I remember seeing it on the news.
It was nuts. But because we didn't know what we didn't know, right? So, but just my point is, being a firefighter EMT, like we have that bedside manner, right? These other soldiers who aren't do that job, like you wouldn't expect them to be good at that, and they were very good at that. They were very good at being compassionate to these people that were freaking out, like what is going on? Because we're literally swabbing their noses. We're doing this crazy thing. We're all suited up, and they're not. You know what I mean? They're probably like, "What's going on?" Mm-hmm. And watching them go from that, right? It's like literally, I'm talking overnight. Like they were like, "Hey, we're gonna wind down most of the mission." So then, what happens on what happened in Boston on Sunday night? They like, we're going to ramp up 1,000 National Guard. We're going to go now. We're going to go into an aggressive posture. Not aggressive, but we're going to start going and do protest security, right? Now we're standing in the streets with live ammo. You know what I mean? I'm just like, and watch the soldier be able to go from that to that and be professional through it all. Really was probably, I would say, the proudest moment not to be of as a leader, just to be part of that organization. Yeah, that makes sense. So that will always, I think, stand out in my mind, watching that thing happen and watching how good the National Guard soldier really is.
Yeah, and I'm so glad to hear you say that, because even when I got into the Guard early on, and people would say things and jokes and whatever,
you say whatever you want.
It took the activations, it took like the deployment to Afghanistan, and it took a bunch of these other things. A lot of the training. Remember, I did a ton of training.
Oh, yeah.
I was basically on orders for 2 years before the deployment, just doing trainings and just sharpening that skill set, right? Mm-hmm. And like it took all of that for me to finally just be like, you know what? Like there is zero shame in being in the Guard. I can't speak for every state, but I'll tell you what, like our state and like all the training and stuff that we went through, and I really think that we put together a pretty good product in the Guard. And
unbelievable.
I think there's something to be said about it, and there should be zero shame in serving in that capacity.
I hope there's no shame. I hope anybody listens to this, and and there's going to always be active duty counterparts always going to give us crap, and we can give them crap too. You know what I mean? We're all service members. We can do that. But anybody on the outside looking in, they better realize like the National Guard soldier is really talented in what we get called to do. Like I said, we have our full time careers that we're getting pulled away from, especially like I said during COVID, right? And then doing these missions and then watching the versatility of the soldier, of that person, be able to handle all that, it said it all to me. I was like, it was really cool to see.
And that was what was cool about when we interviewed Doolittle a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
From him coming from a SEAL community, and just kind of he also gave us that very same compliment.
Yep.
Like, yeah, like I came from the SEAL teams, but the skill set that you guys brought was so valuable to our mission and what we were looking to do overseas. And like, boom, like that hit me too when hearing him say that.
We bring all those different experiences from what we do in civilian life and the military side, and then get called to do the same job that people that do this full time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't think people really get that sometimes.
Yeah. So let's pivot there.
Perfect.
Not only are you a command sergeant major in the Guard, you also have a full-time career as a firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about how you chose going about that career. Did you always want to be a firefighter, or how did that come about?
Great question. So growing up, no. But when it really hit me, I guess because I was probably still around the wrong crowd of people this time, so I guess I didn't understand this mentality. And now that's why I'm only drawn to people like this. So I'm sure you remember the Worcester Six, right?
Yeah.
So anybody around here, they remember the Worcester Six. It was a cold storage fire where 6 firefighters died, right? And they kept going in. So I drove by it. It was the next morning. We couldn't go on the highway, obviously, on 290 because they were still throwing water on the fire, and they were looking for the remains of these 6. And I heard about it, and I remember just being like, these guys kept going in to this building just for each other, and I couldn't. And I love that mentality. I was like, they did this for each other. Like they had to literally block the door. You find out later, like one of the chiefs there had to block the door from letting people continue to go in there.
Mm-hmm.
They would have, every one of them would have went in there to their death to try to get their brothers out, right? So that always kind of resonated with me. I was like, man, like that mentality is just unbelievable, right? So then I was after Natick, right? So after the Natick mission, I lived out in Framingham, and I was like, I want to try to become a firefighter. And it's like, took a couple tests. I got a list a couple times. Back then, it was a lot harder than it is now. And I got really lucky that, because the last test I took, I moved to Northborough, right? So this is it. If I didn't get on, I wouldn't have got on. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have pursued it like outside of that. So I ended up getting pulled off the list when I was in Iraq, came back, competed, and then got the job. So, and it is the best job. Like if you're looking to make a comfortable living, don't become a firefighter, right? You're not going to get rich.
Sure.
But if you're looking to do something that's fulfilling, man, and be around those kind of people I was talking about that'll do anything for you, like the best people around, that's where it's at for me. So to answer your question, no, wasn't wasn't a childhood thing of mine until I started seeing the shift of mentality when there was people out there that I kind of thought like me, right? I like to do things like I get more fired up doing things for other people than I do for myself, right? And you get more people like that in the fire department, fire service. Literally, they're doing this. Like I said, you're not getting rich being a firefighter, and some of the stuff you're getting called to do, stuff you got to see, the stuff you got to go through, and the cancer exposure itself. Like how many people we've buried, because of the cancer exposure. You know what I mean? Like from just doing this job. So, yeah. So anyway, it's the people that drew me into that career. The type of person.
Yeah, it's obviously the only capacity I really understand it is the military, but I couldn't agree more. Where like you can't put a price tag on just being around a group of guys like that or girls, whatever.
Yep.
That is literally like willing to be like, fuck it. Like if I go trying to save my best friend, or if I put their well-being above mine, then so be it. I'll do it. And it's almost like it's expected. Like, I can remember just thinking overseas, like, I know that I'm good. I know the guys around me, like, if they can help it, nothing's going to happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt about them is, like Mike doesn't have to worry about shit. If I can prevent it, it's like, I'll go. Fuck it. And I know that you probably felt the same about me. I know you.
Yeah.
I know you would do that for me.
Yep.
And you don't get that anywhere else outside of the military or fire or whatever. And it really is that brotherhood and going through that together that it's special.
Yeah, there's the word brotherhood, right? It is a brotherhood, and not knowing that being younger, because it's just being around selfish people, right?
Mhm.
That's what I grew up around. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And then once you get away from selfish and get around selfless,
Mhm.
man, those are my people. You know what I mean? For sure.
And I think that's what most people know is just that selfishness,
Yeah.
right? I think most people are just conditioned to be like, how do I get what I want?
What
And how do
about
I
me?
get what I need?
Yep.
As opposed to like, uh, fuck it, I don't care about me. What can I do for this person?
Exactly.
And yet, another thing, like you briefly touched upon it, is like the stuff you have to see as a firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to you about the stuff I saw in Afghanistan,
Mhm.
and for me, just looking at it now, like that shit affected me, and I don't know. For me, it's a blessing that I didn't get into that profession or
Yeah.
a profession like that where I would continuously have to see that stuff, because for whatever reason, that shit, I don't like it. I can block it out. Like if I was doing that job continuously and had to
Well,
do it, I could do it.
Let me reframe this
But-
for you though, and I think I disagree. Like I can't say you're wrong. I just think in the situation where you've had that really gory experience, you were just sitting there, and this truck pulls up, and then it's totally unexpected,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
At least with this job, for the most part, you're kind of like you're gonna get a little heads up that something's pretty bad. You know what I mean,
Mhm.
or whatever.
That's true.
You know what I mean. So you're kind of like prepared, like you're
Mhm.
going on a call to something messed up. You know what I mean? Or maybe not. Maybe it's something you don't expect to be messed up, and then you see it, right?
Sure.
But I just wouldn't use that one moment, that one thing you had
Sure.
to set the stage for the rest of it.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you just don't know.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know. It's just, but it's a lot to see shit like that.
Yeah.
And guys don't talk about it. But to pivot even further into something a little more positive, we did a lot of CrossFit overseas.
Oh, you're gonna let me talk about CrossFit today?
I don't want to, but
All right.
we will talk a little bit
All right.
about it. If you start getting out of hand, I'll stop you.
No.
But no, we got into CrossFit overseas and worked out that way, and
Yep.
You really got into it, especially even after we got home.
Yep.
Talk to me about that.
So again, I gotta rewind to really show how I really bought into it, right? So first, you know how we did that workout at Atterbury. We did Cindy.
Yep.
My very first CrossFit workout ever. It was in the dark 30, whatever. Couldn't see anything, and I remember just being like, man, this is horrible. I'm not ready for this. And but Senior, he said something that'll play in huge later. He's like, he's a very good motivator. And I remember him being like, hey, if you had to fight right now, could you? And I remember, like, he doesn't mean like fight, like fist fight. He means like firefight. If you had to get in a firefight right now, could you? And, that was said. That I never thought about it since. I was like, I'm not ready for this CrossFit thing. Maybe when I get in better shape, I'll do it. So we go on advanced party over to Afghanistan. And we just climb up this stupid little hill. And I remember my lungs are burning because we're at 7,200 feet above sea level, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
My legs are burning. My lungs are burning. Just to walk up a hill. It's not a mountain, guys. I'm telling you. If you would have saw this hill, you'd be like, what's wrong with you? Right? I thought I was in decent shape. Got to the top of that hill, and guess what? That voice, the senior chief saying, hey, if you had to fight right now, could you? And my honest answer, if someone started shooting at me right then, I don't know what I would have done.
Sure.
I was so smoked. So then when he showed up, because you know how we came in phases?
Yep.
Once he showed up, I'm like, all right, this CrossFit thing, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I don't know, and I'm not in the shape that I'm not in the shape that I should be. Even though it was an acclimation period, and I didn't realize that. You do get acclimated to this, to the elevation. I was like, I didn't like where I was at. I was like, I'm all in. Let's do this CrossFit thing. And then obviously, how that went. Like, that was just good time overseas, and I saw how it paid off. Like that one mission that we had, we were out there for a couple of days, where that prompted that stress course, right? I got that firefight. We were out there for 2 more days, or at least 1 more day. Maybe it was a 2-day mission. I don't remember. Either way,
it was a 2-day.
But I did a hard CrossFit workout before we went out on that mission, and then we did that mission, did all that. You know what I mean? And just saw how CrossFit paid off, and how ready I was for anything, right? So then we come back home, and then Senior's like, hey, you got to go try out this gym. You live, like, he's like, he couldn't believe I lived so close to CrossFit New England. I worked at Framingham. The annex right next door. He's like, you have to go there. Like, that's the place.
Yeah.
I'm like, awesome. I'll definitely do that. You know what I mean? So come back home, go to CrossFit New England. I want to go through their elements course. I wanted them to treat me like I never knew anything, let them teach me their way, teach everything. And I went down the rabbit hole huge, man. Like once I walked into a CrossFit gym, this would kind of change my personality because just the I don't know, something about the vibe in that gym, like it just brought a different side out of me, you know? So anyway, so combine that with the method and then get into the methodology. I love the methodology and just saw how the results work for me. That's how you go down the rabbit hole. So I literally watched every video, read every article, went and got my level 1 as soon as I could. I was doing CrossFit for the fire department. I was just going, that's all I wanted to do. And I remember going to, you know, my mentor at the time who did my elements, Mel Lockerbie. I was like, hey, I really want to coach. Like, how do I start doing that? Yeah, got my level 1 already. I did the level 1 for me, not for coaching. I did it because I wanted to learn more at the time. And she's like, hey, I got a couple people. And she gave me a couple email addresses to reach out to them. And then, you know, got a job, coached a lot there, then opened up my own gym and had that. We just celebrated a 10-year anniversary, you know, Saturday.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was cool. So, yeah. So, you know, just CrossFit, again, just when you see what you can do for people, the same thing we talked about earlier, that's what drives me and that's what makes me happy. And being around a good community of people, that's the thing, right? So a lot of times you can go to gyms and everyone's got their own thing. Like some people never want to talk to anybody. I get it, right? Put their headphones on, get after it, you know, grunt it out. That's cool. But having a CrossFit community, especially one that, you know, that we all created together, you know what I mean? That's cool. Like that is cool. And then you're changing lives, you know, and creating community. So.
Yeah, no, as you know, I came home and I did it for 4 or 5 years. And I loved it. Like it really is a great, like you said, community. You meet a lot of really cool people, and I found that, you know, within that community, you really don't see a lot of like shitbags.
They get weeded out.
Yeah,
they never last.
It is a culture of people who are typically very successful. A lot of doctors, a lot of lawyers, a lot of like
a certain mindset,
professionals. Right? Yeah, it does. It does for sure. It does for sure because you show up there, and I remember the guy who owns CrossFit Center Mass when I went there saying this, and it resonated with me every time, is, you know, you show up here, there's no way to hide. You're doing the workout that everybody else is doing. It's right there on the board, you know? And when he said that, it's like, all you got to do is show up.
Yep.
And you're leaving feeling like you know you did something.
Hell yeah.
And so that was probably my favorite part about CrossFit is that level of, like just a little bit of fear when you show up for each workout.
Every
because
time.
Even if you think it looks easy on the board, you're like, oh, it's not going to be that bad. It's going to suck. Like, every time. I don't care. At least for me, because, you know, my biggest issue with CrossFit is pacing myself. I'm not good at it.
Yeah. That's definitely your problem.
I go.
You took that break and you came to my gym and you went all out. I'm like, dude, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just not smart when it comes to that shit. I don't have that, like, off switch.
Yeah.
Like, I don't quit until my body's like, okay, you're done.
Yeah.
Like, you're done. But yeah, no, that the thing about the community is, like, just to touch upon that, it was just that, again, you typically find that it's just a community full of really good people.
Yeah. And I think that's because I said this all the time. Anybody can do CrossFit, right? Physically. I don't care if you just got off the couch, never exercised a day in your life, but it's not for everybody, right? And what we mean by that is some people just don't like to push themselves like that. And in the beginning, you shouldn't. Like, you go off the rails. Like, you shouldn't do that when you're first getting back into it. But it is what it is, right? Hopefully, you got a good coach, good community where they can kind of, you know, get you to where you need to be. But some people just don't ever like to feel that way or push themselves in that way, and that's fine. Like, I don't care. I was never that CrossFit guy, and definitely not now. It was like, CrossFit's the only way. That's silly. That's stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If whatever fitness works for you, works for you. I'm going to say this works for me, and it's worked the best for me and the people that I know. So then I just talk from that lens, from that experience.
Yeah, and I haven't really done it, like, consistently for 7-8 years.
You're a stud, man. I'm telling you.
Maybe for my age or something. I don't know, but now it's I like what I do with just the lifting and the running and the
each their own, exactly.
Yeah, but the issue I find is I don't have that community, right? Because now I have, the gym is awesome as far as the equipment, the staff's pretty cool, but there's a bunch of idiots in there, man. Like, they don't treat the facility with respect.
Yep.
They
Yep.
something's always broken because
Well, yeah.
people don't
Well, look-
treat it with respect.
Exactly.
It just sucks.
So do the reverse of that. Look at my CrossFit gym, right? Like,
You can eat off the floors in your gym.
yep, eat off the floors, but also like because they're always going to police it up. Like, we can leave. They have cubbies where they leave their stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody will ever steal anything from a CrossFit gym. If it does, then it'd be the first I've heard of it. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like, you can literally leave your stuff out there. No one will take it.
Yeah.
People have pride in that place. It's their second family. It's their second home. I mean, you know what I mean? Second family. So, that's the part you don't get with some other places. You know?
Yeah, and that's not what the way it is at my gym. It's just
Yeah.
totally different. What is I feel like you've done a lot, right?
Mhm.
Your service, your firefighter, your gyms, and you've seen success in all these areas. You run the Boston Marathon.
Yep.
You've done a lot of cool shit, and again, you're such a great guy. I love you to death. What have you not done that you want to do?
Oh, good question, Denny. I don't know. What I have not done that I want to do.
What's on your bucket list? Like whether it's personally, professionally, what's something you want to get done before you depart this earth?
That's a great question. Put me on the spot on this one. I don't know, because I'm so involved in the things I have now that I don't want much. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I'm lacking.
Mhm.
But if I were to take it at a goal level, I mean, I think if there would be a way for me to, at a larger scale, be able to bless people, that would be cool. You know what I mean? And I don't know how that would look though. So it's kind of a cop out answer because I don't have which way is God would if that were what He wants from me. One, two, which way is He gonna manifest that? How am I gonna deliver that? Right? That's only He knows that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a great question. I don't mean to cop out on you, but I really believe if I could really impact people, like be able to bless people in a big way, maybe not on a big, large scale, but really be able to change somebody's life, a couple people's lives, like really make an impact. Like I think that would do it for me.
Yeah, and our goals are similar, right? We started this podcast because my idea was how do I tell my story? Turn it into a dialogue, have my best friend do it with me, and that's it. That's turning into I'm writing a book, and that's turning into speaking engagements, and so those are the things and the ways that like I kind of want to touch people, share my story, let them know that they're not alone, and just help in any way that I can, and help to lift people up and out of these dark places where I know I've been.
And that's why I wanted to do this with you, right? Because even we said this from day one, and obviously I think we've already exceeded that. Even if this just reaches one person and affects their and changes them for the better, this was all worth it.
Yeah.
And the work that you put into this, I definitely want to make that known to everybody, like how much Denny puts into this, and Jeff, like they really put a lot of work into this, and I'm just happy to be part of it. And I know this is going to be big for you, and I know you're definitely going to change lives. This is your platform, I think.
Yeah, it's our platform.
Well, but I mean, like, so you said you asked me where do I see my goal? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe I think us doing this together is great, but who knows? Like, just like you're doing a book now, you're doing speaking engagements. Those other things might be bigger than this, or not. Who knows?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, absolutely. And and just so the people listening know, like, we get messages all the time. All the time of people, whether they're comments on LinkedIn, whether they're comments on Instagram, or messages on Instagram or messages on LinkedIn, get them all the time where people say, what you guys are doing is awesome. Keep going. And I get goosebumps because that's why we do it. That's exactly why we're getting into this space. And
100%.
The goal is, like you said, to just help people. One, not enough. I want to help a ton.
Yep. Started out with one. Now it's
and I know we've gotten there and that's the most humbling part about this is when somebody, that just happened yesterday, somebody messages me and tells me their story.
That's cool.
Denny, I saw your story. This is what I went through. And I'm like, you know how humbling that is? That's not easy to just
it's
open up
not.
and share that information.
Yep.
Personal stuff, you know, about abuse, neglect, and rape. One woman sent me. So it's humbling, and it really is a blessing when people, you know, see what you're doing and are kind of inspired to be like, you know what, I want to share my story too. So people can see it, and yeah, that really is what this is about. And that kind of leads me to our next question, final question, is, you know, how do you define success? Because for me, I just told you how I define success in everything that I'm trying to accomplish right now.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that answers your question too, based off what your goals look like. But you are a guy that I know doesn't require much materialistic shit. That's not you.
Yeah.
And I've become way more that way. I've told you about the dumb watch that I bought and I wish I didn't buy and whatnot. You know, that shit, as we get more into this, the less I fucking care about any of that stuff.
Because can I say this? And I just my initial thought with that is because you're getting fulfillment from this, just like you said with that watch. You didn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like that's why I tell people now, like I don't do anything like for happiness. Happiness doesn't factor into a single thing that I do, because when you're just seeking happiness, it's only a matter of time before you go outside of yourself to find it. You start looking for materialistic things. You start looking for other people to make you happy. You start looking for whatever to bring that joy, that fulfillment, and it doesn't work.
Yeah,
it's just it never will.
So success, to answer the question, I think for me, is to be the man that I know I'm supposed to be. I don't think I'm there yet. I think I'm far from it, honestly. So I hope I have more time left on this planet to become that guy, especially, you know, with the person that God wants me to be. I want to be a better person for that. I want to be, you know, a good family person, a good family man, and just be able to be an example for anybody around me to follow, I guess. You know what I mean? I just don't feel like I know I haven't accomplished it yet. I would not be like I wouldn't be. If I had to go tomorrow, I'd be like, man, I wish you know what I mean? I wish I could have done more, because I don't feel like I've done enough, if that makes sense. So success for me, I guess, it's a loaded question. I think it's a trick question, because is success?
It kind of is a trick question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like it's ever over, right? I'm like, so, but I feel like I have a lot more to give. I feel I have a lot more to grow, a lot more to learn, a lot more to do, to be a better example, to be the man that I want. That I know I need to be. You know what I mean? So the success, yeah. I mean, I think it's a trick question, Danny. I really don't know if there's ever going to be an end to that.
Yeah, there's a Tony Robbins quote that I love, and it's something like, I don't remember exactly, but it's something like, we grow so that we have more to give. Right? And I know that about you, as far as your growth, and you're constantly working on yourself. And, you know, I think you're probably similar to me in the sense where, like, if you felt like you got to where you were going, you'd be like, okay, this is it. What's next? That's how I would be.
Yeah.
I'd be like, all right, so that goal was achievable.
Yeah.
What now?
After that, what is death? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no, let's keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So man, is there anything else you wanted to touch upon? Any part of you that we didn't talk about that you want people to know about?
I think we got it all. I mean, you know, I hate talking about myself, but this is what we do. We both.
I knew that when I decided I wanted to interview you. I knew it was going to be like, Mike doesn't really talk about himself that much. I knew it was going to. That's okay.
No, I think everything's out there. I mean, we told my childhood, my military story, firefighting, CrossFit, you know, family, God. That's me. That's awesome. There's really, that's it, man.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you kind of opening up and doing that. You know, like I said, I feel like I've put my story out there a lot, and I try my best to share it without oversharing and all of that. But, you know, I wanted our viewers to know you the way I know you, at least as best that they can, because, you know, again, you've been the best friend I've probably ever had, and I'm appreciative of you, and you've pulled me out of the darkest places I've been, and I can't thank you enough for just everything. So.
Brothers, man, we got this. Yep.
Appreciate you.
You too, kid.
All right, brother. Thank you. And we will see you next time.
Be the standard.